Hi, I wanted to see if you wanted to meditate with me. I am sitting out in the woods after my morning walk, and I was going to go live, but it's not working. So I'm just going to take a video and see if anyone wants to watch it at a later date and start trying to implement even small, tiny little things into your daily life that bring you more peace. That's what I'm doing for June. I saw a woman post yesterday. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, but she said, June is for joy. And I loved that. I was like, yes, I want more joy. And I'm doing everything I can to show up for myself and bring more joy into my life. And that includes posting these videos unedited, showing my wrinkles, holding the phone close to me because I don't have a microphone, and really just showing up because I feel like I've been through a lot, but I can offer a lot. I'm a Reiki practitioner, meditation teacher, all around sensitive soul, single mom, and so I want to share more, even if it's hard to show up. But meditation has been such a cornerstone for me for the last 15 years. And I just feel like it took me almost 20 years to start meditating every day since I first learned about it. I first learned about it from Dr. Dyer. I was so luckily gifted a briefcase in, I think, like 1990 maybe, by a family friend who asked me what I wanted to do with my life, and I had no idea, and had a whole lot of already unhealed trauma and was totally lost. I was taking a year off from college and it was just a hard time. And so she said, I'll be right back, and came and handed me a briefcase. And inside the briefcase were 20 cassette tapes and they were of Dr. Dyer's PBS special. And the special was from, I think, the year before, so early 80, like probably 1987, 88. And she just handed them to me and said, I know you're 21 and I know you know things, but I'm just asking you, will you listen to these cassette tapes? And I probably rolled my eyes and was like, thanks. And I went in my car, and back then we all had radios and cassette tape in our car, built into our cars. And I put the first tape in, and I really was mesmerized by Dr. Dyer's whole aura and energy. He had been a foster child. He'd been through a lot, and he is not perfect, as I'm not perfect. He's not perfect. No one's perfect. I don't think I resonated with everything he said. But I loved his message so much. It was the first time I'd ever heard such positivity and really, really grasping, not believing everything you think, and really encouraging meditation and just a whole mindset of mindfulness. He's since passed, but he wrote many books, and I highly recommend them. You can easily go on YouTube and watch so many of his old clips. And then nowadays, AI people have clips with him as well. But these cassette tapes, I think I listened to about maybe 10 of them. I loved them. They made me feel high vibrational and hopeful in a world that didn't feel helpful. It brought me some peace, and I was like, I want to start meditating. Like, this man had me sold. It's got to help. And then I didn't. And every day, I honestly every day, and at least every week for years, I was like, today I am meditating. And then I didn't. And it's hard to build in time, but it's also, I don't think we were ever taught to build in that self-care and how important it is to our mental wellness. And anyways, just to quickly, so those tapes, I had them in my car. I went back to college, and I think the first week back, someone stole the cassette tape, the briefcase out of my car. I was so sad. I would give anything to have those tapes back. And the person, I would love to believe, listened to them, but they probably thought something really juicy was inside, something valuable. And by the way, those were so invaluable and so juicy, but I'm sure the person who stole everything out of my car was not looking for self-help tapes, and possibly just threw it out. But my whole life since has been sprinkled with Dr. Dyer, but I've gone through so many years of suppressing the mindset and the thoughts and not believing everything I think, and meditation. And I just am at the point where I'm finally able to stop the distractions and really live the way I want to live, not letting other people and their mindsets and their upbringing and their beliefs and their patterns and their trauma affect me, but really truly living for me. It's hard, especially when you're if you're married, if you're surrounded by families with different beliefs, and society as a whole. I mean, there's just negativity, I think, out there, and I'm trying to spread little bits of positivity here. But I just wanted to talk quickly about meditation. So again, I picked up the idea of meditation and how important it was from Dr. Dyer. And then every week I was like, I'm going to do it every day. I can do it. And then I never did. I think for me, I kept thinking, I don't know how to. That was my excuse. Or I don't know. Because, honestly, you can go online to YouTube. There are free apps. There's, I think, the Calm app, Insight Timer, and probably several others at this point. I'm sure on Pinterest, on the internet, that you can just type in guided meditation, breath work, walking meditation. On the Insight Timer, they have music that you can put on, and just put on some high frequency binaural beats and listen to that while you close your eyes and take some breaths in and out. There's so much to it. There's so much goodness to it. And it took me, I finally think I was about 40, and I went with one of my best friends to hear a meditation and mindfulness teacher at a conference. And the first thing she did, there was probably 500 people in the room, and the first thing she did is she came out, she said hello, and then she asked them to turn the lights down. They put on some beautiful music, and she quietly just kind of spoke to us about closing our eyes and taking some deep breaths and grounding ourselves and remembering how special we were. And then she did that for a few minutes. She turned the lights back on, and I found tears coming down because it just was such a peaceful moment. And then she said, so how many people in this room have wanted to meditate every day? And I raised my hand, and I looked around, and I would say probably 300 people in the room also raised their hand. And she said, well, congratulations, you just did it. And it was such a great starting point for me, and that's why it's hard for me to be online showing my face, but it's why I want to maybe give someone some hope, a little idea on how to start meditating, how to start bringing some peace to your life, some ease to your life, because we are all worthy of that. Anyways, so ever since that day, I have been meditating, not every day. I'll go for long streaks of every day. Sometimes twice a day. I used to follow a woman who did it 3 minutes, 3 times a day. And just little tiny bits of time where you just cut out all the noise and quiet your mind. And by the way, I have so many clients and people who would quote unquote never do it, or don't know how, or say they can't. And I was even watching a special this past weekend. It was the woman, oh gosh, she's the actor and comedian from the show Hacks, Hannah, I want to say. I'm sorry, Hannah, I don't know your last name, but I was watching her stand-up comedy special, and she did a thing about how people tell her to meditate, and she has ADHD, I think, and how when she tries to meditate, all of a sudden, like, the world, it gets louder. for her. And it was funny, but it made me think, like, it's just a good reminder. It's okay. When I meditate, if I've been doing this now for 15 years, when I meditate, I can get distracted and I can let the outside world in. And what I've learned, though, is to try and be like, oh, I don't need to give up. I can keep, let me come back to practicing my breathing, and I count my breaths, and that gets me kind of back on track. I breathe in for 4 seconds, I hold it for 4 seconds, and then I slowly breathe out for 8 seconds. And just counting kind of brings me back and stops the noise. So I know it is hard, but it is possible, even if you have to keep going back over and over again, because it's like a muscle that you can build and eventually have some really long, beautiful meditations. But it's also just bringing you a few seconds of peace, a few minutes of peace. And if you really can't do it, then that's when I would suggest walking meditations, putting on a guided meditation, putting on some high frequency music. There are other ways to do it besides just sitting quietly. And I want to share more. So if you have any questions, please let me know. But I do want to recommend that you meditate with me, and I hope it brings you some peace. So after all that to say, let's just meditate for a minute. Close your eyes if you can. If you're driving, obviously, please don't. You could save this video and use it later, but I just would love for you to close your eyes for a minute. And what I had just mentioned was, for me, counting my breaths kind of gets me grounded and into a more calm mode, so that it's easier for me to meditate. So the first thing I do is I ground myself. And really, for me, what that means is I imagine tree roots just wrapped around my legs and just bringing me deep, deep down into the earth, and just taking a deep breath with that and calming myself. After I've done that, I start, and there's so many variations and box breaths and recommendations, and I say find what works best for you, because what works best for me might not work best for you. I think for me, what I try and do is breathe in through my nose for 4 seconds, and I'll count in my head to 4. So I'll just breathe in for 4 seconds, and then I'll hold it for 4 seconds, and in my head I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I breathe out by my mouth for 8 seconds, long and slow. And I do it again. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 8 seconds. And that works for me. So I recommend trying different ways, doing some searches. Again, there's different amounts of time. As you explore meditation, I start breathing in and then holding for much longer, and then exhaling, even practicing or Googling like the Wim Hof method. That's holding your breath for much longer, but those type of things really can help you disconnect, even for a little bit. That's what I'm encouraging. Meditate with me, even for a few minutes, even for a few seconds, just to bring a little peace. Okay? Thanks for joining me.